What's up? It's your boy ZndBorn for Gearspace, and we are headed over to Cali Audio headquarters. I don't condone filming while driving, so don't do what I'm doing. But I am an absolute professional. Thank you for taking the ride with us. Let's go check them out. All right, so we're here. Let's take a look around.
How you doing?
Hey.
Come on in. Welcome to Cali. Thanks for coming by. This is Cali. This is where we design all of our loudspeakers and run the business and test everything. And we've got some cool stuff to show Danny and you guys today. We're looking forward to it. Cali got started about 5 years ago, and we all came from a larger company, and we're used to working in the corporate environment where you sit at your desk and you do your job. And this is very much not that. So a lot of our work happens in a very collaborative environment, a lot of pitching ideas back and forth, a lot of saying, will this work? Yeah, it'll work, but it'll be super expensive. Okay, but will it be worth it? So a lot of stuff like that, having those conversations about what's feasible, what's possible in the budget that we can afford, what's possible in the budget that we think our end users can afford, and what we can do with the resources we have to deliver the best possible speakers. Then, of course, all of that is based on engineering, so I'll show you guys some of the labs. This is one of our main labs. This is where a lot of the electronical engineering happens, as well as a lot of the prototyping. The electronics engineering is super important, obviously, when you're dealing with speakers, dealing with electronic signals and measuring very low-level information within those signals to determine the speakers are working correctly, the amplifiers are working correctly, all of the digital aspects of the amplifier are also doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, so that as we're adding digital signal processing to those speakers, that is all working and not detracting from the performance of the loudspeaker, but adding the things that we need them to add. So a lot of that happens here. We have a whole array of 3D printers where we do our prototyping, and kind of what I was talking about before, we work in a very collaborative environment. So a lot of what we do is, hey, we have this idea. All right, let's build it, let's test it, let's see if it works, and if it works, let's move to the next step. So a lot of that, let's build it, let's test it, happens here. And some cool things have come out of these 3D printers that have eventually made their way into products that are on the market right now.
That's the INUNF right here.
Yeah, so the whole point of the INUNF is for people who don't have enough space to set up a pair of LP6s or IN5s or whatever it is. This lets you mix in a desktop environment. You know, there's a lot of people where their desk is the only personal space they have in the world. And so we wanted to do something that used the desk space well, but also allowed for a full resolution, full output listening environment. Yeah. So it's not what you're used to listening on small speakers. What you're going to hear in a sec is a really complete, really intimate picture of your mix on something that you can put almost anywhere.
You can make I wanna tell you what I'm telling.
You like it?
Yeah, no, I actually really like it. You have opposing woofers on the sides here.
Yep. This is the same mid-range and tweeter that you're going to find in the IN8 or the IN5. And what that gives you is this really hyper-realistic sense of stereo image. Because the mid-range and tweeter are coaxial, they're coincident, so there's no phase separation between those two. The woofers that are in here are doing the same job as a woofer on a traditional speaker is doing. So it's not playing the low, low, low end. It's playing as low as it can, which in this case is about 40 hertz, up into the lower mid-range, where it crosses over to the mid-range speaker. Because of that, because you have the two woofers and they're horizontally opposed, you don't get cancellation. You do get really nice, clean, precise, punchy bass. Powerful, it's not an over-representation, but it is what is on the track. And then when it transitions to the mid-range tweeter, you get this dead center stereo image. And that's sort of neat, but more importantly what it is it's giving you all of the information that's in your mid-range as you go into the higher end where the tweeter starts to take over. You can pick out all those little details. So as you're mixing, any change that you make, you can hear immediately what it sounds like. And the really nice thing about the INUNF, the really nice thing about Cali speakers in general, is not only do you get all that detail when you're doing the mix work, but it translates. And that's what anybody who uses our speakers is going to tell you. This translates really, really well. You're not making trips back and forth to the car. You're not having to A and B between a lot of different speakers. If it sounds good on this, it's going to sound good on whatever else you're listening to. It just happens that you can also really work at a very detailed level with this system. What we made the MM6 for is for people who want to hook this up to their TV, or they want to hook it up to their gaming console. It's got optical, SPDIF, and RCA input, so you don't need to run it through any sort of receiver. You don't need to run it off of an interface. You can just hook directly up to it, and then you hook directly into one speaker and run an XLR to the other speaker, and you've got stereo. So a lot of people ask us, like, oh, these speakers sound great. I want to listen to them for my movies. It's a little hard. This solves that problem for people. Atmos demo room. This is where we've got a 7.1.4 system set up with IN8, IN5, and WS12 speakers. And what's cool about this room is this is the same complement of loudspeakers that you can find in some of the best studios in town. So if you go to East West Studios, this is what their Atmos room looks like. If you go to the Village, this is what their Atmos room looks like. This room isn't particularly large. It is 12 feet wide by about 14 feet deep. And we've got really high ceilings in here, but we've sort of dropped the ceiling acoustically down to about 10 feet with the cloud. Even a fairly large bedroom, you could set up an Atmos system to mix. And even a room smaller than this, it's possible to get all of these speakers in place and time aligned and room tuned to be able to do this. One of the cool things that we have is you'll notice we've got a subwoofer kind of in that corner, we've got a subwoofer kind of in that corner. Those subwoofers are a quarter of the way into the room, and being on either side of the room means that we can cancel out some of the low-end modes that you normally get. If you have one subwoofer in a room, you're going to have interactions with the room that aren't necessarily all that great, so the listening position, you're losing some information. These subs being in the position that they're in cancels that out, so you have all the low end at the listening position. You don't have any bass buildups, and you don't have any cuts where you're not getting the information you need to make those critical listening decisions.
Of course, you have your sweet listening position right here, I'm assuming?
The sweet spot is here. One of the nice things about Atmos, and one of the reasons that it's getting as popular as it is that you can mix in this large format. So we've got 7.1.4, and what that means is you have 7 speakers that are at ear level. You have 1 subwoofer channel. Now we're running that through 2 subs, and then you've got 4 overhead speakers. You can also mix in some larger formats, so some people do 9.1.6, so that means 9 speakers around, 6 speakers on the ceiling. But you can also down mix that into binaural audio, which works for your headphones, and they're working on ways to get that to work in the car as well. So basically what that means is the person who is creating the mix in a studio, even if you don't have 11 speakers in your playback system, if you're playing back on headphones, you're still hearing all of that spatial audio. You're still hearing what the person who mixed the song is hearing when they mixed it, which is really neat, especially as headphones have gotten better and better, and if people have gotten more used to buying a $300 or $400 pair of headphones, and those headphones can do a lot, this is a better system for them to make sure that the mixer is hearing in depth what the music is capable of outputting, and then you're getting a better experience when you're listening on headphones or even listening on a smaller format system that outputs Atmos.
So I'm going to take a listen, and I wish you guys could hear this. You can feel it in your stomach. Now for the main chorus. There's a little something special that they're working on.
Oh, I be swinging a fist if you're into denial.
It makes a difference when people who are making music can forget about the technical details of what the speakers are doing and just focus on what they're hearing and making that the best possible experience for the person who's going to be listening. And then at the other end of the equation, for the person who is listening, I want them to hear everything that the artist was thinking. I want them to hear the hard work that the producer put into that track. The level of realization of how much emotion people are putting into this music and how much that hits you is really powerful. And if we can do something to make that an easier process for the people who are making music and make it more impactful for the people who are listening to music, then I think we've done something really good. So I'm really, needless to say, I'm really, really proud of this. And I hope that this lets people make better music and lets people enjoy that music on a deeper, more personal level.
Well, thank you again for having me.
Thanks so much for coming by. If you want to learn anything else, just head over to caliaudio.com.
just finishing up at Cali Audio headquarters, and after hearing those monitors, I got some thinking to do. Everything I heard there makes me reevaluate budget monitors. And what they have coming down the pipe is truly going to blow your mind, and I can't wait for them to share it with you. I want to thank Cali Audio for having me. I want to thank you guys for taking the ride with me. This is ZndBorn for GearSpace, and I'll catch you on the next video.